Hello everybody and welcome to the Siege Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, comment your Siege related questions and topic discussions, and there's a chance it will appear in the next video. You can do this right now by commenting on this video, or if you join my Discord, we have a dedicated channel for all your questions. I don't like doing long intros, so if you haven't subbed already, do it because only 20% of you are. Hit the like and hype button and let's get into this. So this one's going to be by both Temp and Charlie J because they have very similar questions. But both of their questions are regarding the new mute changes in Year 10 Season 4. And the implication that this could be setting us up for a new defending operator who works sort of adjacent to mute. So in other terms, an EMP based defender. So, if you're not aware, in Year 10 Season 4, Mute's jammers no longer act like defending EMPs. Instead of just disabling every electronic gadget which comes in contact with it, it now only jams wireless communications between two sources. Technically, that's how a Mute jammer should have always worked. So that now means gadgets like air jabs, Ace's Selmas, Blitz's shield, claymores, are not affected by mute, since none of those gadgets use a wireless connection to a source to activate. They all exist independently by themselves, regardless of the fact that they are electronic. And on top of the fact that we have just had a remaster to Thatcher, the main EMP operator on attack, then yeah, I do think the cogs are turning a little bit, that maybe we are making way for a new EMP based defender. Now, although mute has been changed, there are still two ways to use an EMP on defense. The first way is a bulletproof camera. They have an EMP round built into them that can be used to disable attacking electronics. This isn't similar to an EMP, it is simply downright an EMP blast. So the concept of having EMPs on defense isn't something new. Now, the other operator who still exists like an EMP is Tuberau. Obviously, I'm not saying his gadget is an EMP. It's not. It freezes devices, but the way it messes with electronics is comparable to how you would use an EMP grenade, or I guess even a new Thatcher. Since it does disable an electronic gadget, and mechanical gadgets as well, just in its own unique way. So now that mute has been changed to act like a signal jamming operator rather than an EMP operator, because it never really made sense for mute anyway, there is somewhat of an open window for an EMP based defender to join the ranks. Do I have an absolutely flawless concept off the top of my head of how this could work? Not really. But you would have to make sure that you're not stepping on the feet of Tuberau or getting too similar to how mute used to be. You could go down the route of something similar to the remastered version of Thatcher, giving a defender a launcher-based EMP gadget, or I kind of like the idea of them having an EMP-based defending drone, similar to a bulletproof camera, but something more mobile. This would introduce a new intel operator to the defensive team, but it would also still remain different to what an Evil Eye can do, because Evil Eyes can do damage and destroy gadgets. Echo drones can concuss people and knock them off plants. Mozzie is of course a flipper, so he steals the drones from the attacking team. So I do think a drone that you can control and move on defense, which has an EMP effect, whether that's something you shoot like Brava's drone, or it's like a proximity based one, something you can drive around, would be really cool. But yes, I do believe that there is an opportunity to introduce an EMP based defender into the game. And it also makes sense from a design perspective as well. They've been thinking a lot about EMPs recently. It isn't too far-fetched that when they were designing Thatcher's remaster, that one of the concepts that came up for his remaster could be turned into a defending EMP op. But yeah, great question, and I would personally love to see that. I think it sounds like a fun idea. This next one is by Knight, and they say, do you think the Keres Legion will play a bigger role, gameplay-wise, over the next couple of seasons, given the direction things are going in the lore? This could go from Keres ops to even, maybe, smaller additions such as Keres made secondary gadgets, like how the observation blocker is made by nighthaven. Now, I don't know if they will do this, but this is something I think they should do. When nighthaven was introduced to Rainbow Six Siege, it served a part of the narrative. But if we're all being honest, nighthaven's existence also gave the developers freedom to explore gadgets that were a bit more higher tech, something which people wouldn't necessarily attribute to what Rainbow would use. If you want to introduce a high-tech, somewhat fantasy-like gadget into Rainbow Six Siege, how do you explain this without annoying core fans who have been with the franchise prior to Siege? Well, it was made by Nighthaven, a privately funded PMC with their own QCR department who do their own research and make their own gadgets. And I can see them using the Keres Legion in a similar way. What if you wanted to introduce a gadget to Rainbow Six Siege, or a secondary gadget to Rainbow Six Siege, which is very off the books, which is something that a team like Rainbow simply wouldn't use? Well, you could introduce it as a Keres Legion gadget. Can't imagine they have much regulation. They're very off the books. They are a terrorist organization. I definitely think that is something they should utilize. It's just gameplay at the end of the day anyway. Heck, Deimos is playable, despite being a bad guy for the Keres Legion. And I know there was a lot of initial controversy of, is this something the game should have? Should we let villains be playable? Should people who aren't in the team in the narrative be playable? But at this point, I don't really think people are that bothered by it. I think everyone understands at the end of the day that gameplay and lore are two different things. Just because Deimos is playable in gameplay doesn't mean he's a good guy in the lore. But we can all agree that Deimos being playable is pretty cool. I'd personally rather have Deimos playable than not playable. And that's how I kind of feel about Keres Legion based gadgets as well. At the end of the day, it's probably quite cool to have that in gameplay. Doesn't mean that Rainbow are going to use those gadgets. Doesn't mean that their gadgets are used for good. But you also have to remember, this is a 10-year-old live service games. We do have to at least give them some creative liberties when it comes to stuff like that. And at the end of the day, that's still a grounded thing. So yeah, if Siege's creative team and the people designing their gadgets have an idea which is something way too far-fetched for Rainbow or Nighthaven to use, then I'd be perfectly fine with them saying, this is a Keres Legion gadget. That benefits gameplay, and even me as a massive lore fan doesn't bother me that much. I can separate gameplay and lore. If Siege had a campaign mode and it was strictly narrative based and Rainbow were using Keres Legion gadgets, then yeah, I'd have an issue with that. But it's not. It's a multiplayer shooter. I can take my lore hat off for that part of gameplay and accept that it's probably quite cool. So yeah, I'd love to see this. I've been yapping about the gadget for a while, so I'll just finish off with the operator as well. I would also love more Keres ops. I see a lot of people saying they want Phobos, and Phobos has a cool design. I think they should do it just from, you know, it's cool to play as Phobos, a lot of people want it, and it's cool to get another Keres op. So yeah, I would absolutely love to see more Keres Legion content in Siege. Even gadget skins, like they've been heavily sleeping on gadget skins. We saw a Keres Legion Nitro cell in the most recent lore cinematic. Add that as a gadget skin. Make it like 300 R6 credits, or, you know, don't make it too expensive, but I'd rather have that than a charm. You know what I mean? Like, stick it in a battle pass or something like that. I don't know. There is definitely a lot more they can do. This one is by Ace of Spade, and they ask, what operator types, example, intel, healing, do you think the game needs more of or less of? So I definitely think the game needs more shields. No, I'm just kidding. Wall denial would probably be my answer here. It's not that Bandit and Kaid are bad in any shape or form, and with Tuberau in the mix, he can definitely help them out quite a bit. But especially, and we're going to bring back the mute changes here as well, considering he doesn't counter secondary hard breach charges or ace anymore. And with the remastered Thatcher, Kaid is really easy to counter now as well. And again, it's not to say that Bandit and Kaid and Tuberau can't work together and you can't have high skill plays there, but it is definitely getting way more overwhelming now to play wall denial operators, especially just those two. I remember before Kaid was even in the game, we were like, oh, I mean, Bandit can do everything. Like, we love Bandit. And then Kaid came into the game and we're like, holy shit, Bandit's being replaced. Like, this guy can throw them on hatches. This guy can throw them anywhere. He can hide them. Like, good night, Bandit. Like, that operator's dead now. This is a power creep. But now we're at the stage of the game where we're like, you know, it's not Bandit versus Kaid, and it hasn't been Bandit versus Kaid ever, to be honest. That's how we initially thought it was going to be like. But now more than ever, it's Bandit and Kaid. Those two operators are not in competition with each other. They are working together as much as they can. So I think definitely now more than ever, we could maybe look into the realm of introducing a new wall denial operator. I know that may be hard to balance, but so is everything in this game, but they make it work. So I have faith that if they do introduce a new wall denial operator, they could cook something new up. But yeah, definitely the changes that came to Mute, definitely the fact that Thatcher is insanely strong now. And, you know, Kaid's definitely harder to play against Thatcher. And even before this Thatcher remaster comes, playing wall denial nowadays is already hard enough. Not saying it's impossible, not saying it's the hardest thing in the world, but it's definitely a lot harder than it used to be. And we're going into next season. Might I mention as well, Thermite's got 3 Thermite charges. Hibana's buffed. Maverick has nades back as well. So yeah, it's definitely harder to play Kaid and Bandit. Probably the hardest period it will ever be to play wall denial ops. So I would not be against a third one coming into the mix. We did talk about a potential EMP Defender at the start as well. Maybe it could be a middle ground between a wall denial op and an EMP Defender. I do think that there is space for that. I would like to see Bandit and Kaid get a little bit of assistance now, especially with the buffed hard breachers, and especially just as the game goes on. I think if we're going to keep getting operators and this game is going to continue to evolve, we do need at least a third wall denial operator at some point. I'm not saying it has to be year 11, but I mean, another thing just popped into my head. You've also got the ban system as well now. So yeah, I think a third wall denial op would be nice to have. I want to address this user who has a few questions of what if X, Y, and Z was a 2-speed, or what if X, Y, and Z was a 3-speed? And I just want to say, in Year 10 Season 4, and especially in January, we are going to be getting the Testing Grounds playlist, where the first thing Ubisoft will be testing on this mode will be speed and armor. This is going to be in the live build of the game, and you, the player, can change the speed and armor of your operators and play it in this dedicated playlist to see if you like it and, you know, what your thoughts on it. It does seem to be an entirely new speed and armor system altogether. Like, it seems like they're getting rid of the idea of like 2 and 2 and 3 and 1. Rather, it seems to be like, I think one of them was referred to as like Juggernaut or something like that. So it's different categories. So I'm not necessarily going to answer these questions straight up with a yes, I think they should do this, no, I think they should do this. Let's see when this testing ground playlist starts in January. This is available on all platforms. It's in the live version of the game, so make sure you stay tuned for that and we can test some stuff there. I personally believe, I'll give an opinion outside of these ones, I think Doc should be a 3-speed. I think that should have been the thing that happened when he lost his ACOG. He should have got a compensation buff and been made a 3-speed. I still think he should be 3-speed. But yeah, excited to see the testing grounds come, but I thought I'd address this user because they seem very passionate about speed and armor. So you'll get your chance to test it all by yourself and make that choice. Yeah, pretty cool. This one's by Righteous Calamity, and they ask, how would you feel about Kali Sniper having all zoom levels? The sniper would start at 1 times, and you hit the zoom button to go to 2.5, then 5 times. I wouldn't necessarily be against giving Kali more zoom levels. It'd be a bit awkward having to like keep cycling through a bunch of different zoom levels to get to the one you want to. And she does have a pocket SMG for those close quarter combat fights. So Kali's a bit of a weird one, because on one hand, I wouldn't be against changes coming to Kali, but on the other, I kind of like her as she is, and I think she's honestly fine. I still kind of get pissed off with like limb damage and stuff like that. So that's my biggest annoyance with Kali, but that's more of an issue I have with gameplay rather than like Kali herself. I think Kali's fine, honestly. The sniper is limiting, but she can do work with the secondary SMG, so I think Kali's fine. I like your idea, but I think it'd be a bit more clunky in execution, having to like scroll through a bunch of different scopes just to get to the one you want, and then let's say you want to go to 2.5 and then you miss it, then you have to go through the rotation again. It's a good idea, but I don't think she needs it. This next one is by ZenoZeno6383, and they say, what's your opinion on using the dual front sector buildings in custom games as 1v1 or 3v3 maps, or making a 3v3 public multiplayer mode using them? This way, those who don't like dual front wouldn't feel like the mode was wasted resources. I'm going to kind of tweak your question a little bit there, because I will say, I think you can make a map out of one of these sectors, and That's the third one, if I'm not wrong, because it's based on the old version of House. At least the upstairs is. The rest of the map is a little bit different. But honestly, it's got quite a fun and interesting flow to it, in my opinion. I think with just a little work to maybe adding an attacker spawn, you could have a somewhat interesting map out of this. One of my friends said when Dualfront came out, like, oh, they should have done it like each 3 sector also coexists as a siege map on its own right. Which I think 100% would have been a cool thing to do. Then you could have had, you know, when Dualfront got a new map, you would also then get 3 core siege maps, and then that would make both modes coexist. Now it kind of feels like there's not really any point putting resources into Dualfront. As much as I like it as well, it definitely does seem like all the focus now is going to go to core siege. If you saw the year 10 season 4 reveal, Dualfront wasn't mentioned once. Dualfront has changes in this new season, but they're not going to talk about it anymore. I think Dualfront's already kind of past its time. As sad as I am to admit that, I don't think there is a future in Dualfront anymore. So I think they should just focus full on core siege going forward. I like it. I think one of the maps could actually turn out pretty well from this. But yeah, I like your point. If Dualfront maybe took off more and we had like more resources for both of them and they could coexist and we could continue with both, then yeah, I would agree. And I think my method of doing like the 3 core siege maps and then the big one being Dualfront would have been a really cool thing. But at this point, just focus on core siege. Like, that's what we have to do. Core siege should be the hyper focus of, well, siege. This next one's by CuteMoonGod, and they ask, do you think Jager deserves a buff, and what would you change about him to make him viable again? I personally think Jager is viable. I have a lot of fun using him. I know people have issues with his primary weapon. I think it's fine, but I guess they could address that if it would be more playable for a lot of people. I think the only thing I would do to Jager, honestly, is give him a deployable shield. I think that fits well in his kit, and I think that would be nice to see on Jager. He recently did get a buff. It wasn't a major buff, but he did get the P10C as an extra secondary option. And especially with the scope changes coming in year 10 season 4, the gun also is just a lot easier to use. So he can definitely have some fragging potential with this better secondary weapon, but I understand it's not a massive, insanely huge buff to Jager. I think he's in a fine spot. Again, like I said, maybe change the primary weapon a little bit around to help the people who have issues with it and give him a deployable shield, and then I think he's in a great spot. I think just the issue is that Wamai will kind of be favorable for a lot of stuff. Not sure why they gave Wamai the super shorty though. Maybe remove the super shorty from Wamai and give it to Jager, in my opinion. But yeah, I don't think a lot has to happen to Jager. I mean, you may disagree though. What are your thoughts? That's what the comment section's for. Booyah. Just plug the comment. This one's by AK Aiden, and it says, a different kind of Siege Mailbox question. As the 10th anniversary for Rainbow Six Siege approaches, what season from year 1 to 10, excluding the new one, is your favorite? I don't know. It either has to be Operation Chimera or Operation Burnt Horizon. I think it was just when I was still somewhat in my infancy for this game. It would have been like going into like my 2nd year of playing it or something like that. And I was just really heavily had the ball rolling at this point. And it was just so interesting, you know? It was like getting hyped for new seasons. And I think when Burnt Horizon came around, it was just like, oh, cool, we're getting Australian ops and we're going to Australia. And then like you had Gridlock and Mozzie. That was when the Super Shorty was added and everything. It was just a really hype time. And I also think maybe Burnt Horizon, it was quite a, I don't know, like I don't know how to say it. It was like quite a sad period I was going through. Like I was in high school. I was doing a college course on the side and everything. I absolutely hated it. Like I was definitely depressed. Maybe I didn't realize it then, but I was 100% depressed. So like all the new content, everything that we got, like Siege was really my it was really my escape. So I don't know why exactly that season was the one that stuck with me the most, because it definitely wasn't only that season I felt that way. But I don't know, I think just like I have fond memories of loading up the game and seeing all the teasers, and then you had like Mozzie and Gridlock at the main menu. It just reminded me of a period where like the game truly helped me. And not that it still doesn't help me to this day, and not that I still don't love it. I get to go to events, I get to meet people who I absolutely adore, and viewers, and I'm like beyond grateful. But like that was even before I made content, or it was when I was starting to make content, or trying to make content. And I don't know, it helped me, and I don't want to be all like sobby about all that, but it truly did. And I look back on that period with a lot of fond memories. So yeah, I guess Burnt Horizon is going to be my answer. This next one is by Blue Wolf 2004, and they say, a cool map for Siege would be a map called Black Site, and it's the main base where Rainbow are after the fall of Hereford base. Now, I agree. I think we definitely need a new map, or you know, something which shows a new base for Rainbow. I'm okay waiting time for that. I understand they have to build it. But I think we're getting a Hereford remaster at some point. Like, they already reworked Hereford base one time, so they couldn't just rework it again. They had to go out and flat out destroy the thing in the narrative. But Hereford is such an important part to Rainbow Six Siege's narrative and just Rainbow Six as a franchise. It's been their base since, you know, the very start. It's been in the game since 1998. Obviously not in Siege, but if you've seen my 1998 lore video, Hereford's in that. It's in the original book. Hereford is important to Rainbow Six as a franchise and as an identity of that franchise. So I would like to see them rebuild Hereford. I'd like to see, you know, a semi-modern Hereford base, like with maybe the help of Nighthaven or something like that. Like a modern Hereford base where it's Rainbow's new base of operations, built from the ground up, built from the ruins of Hereford itself. You know, there's a bit of imagery that can be set there as well. But yeah, I think that would be cool from a narrative perspective, but from gameplay as well. We can actually get a solid Hereford, this time built from the ground up. It wouldn't be a rework. Like, it would be a rework, but it wouldn't be a rework, if that makes sense. Like, I would call it like Hereford HQ or something like that. Like a new, fresh name. It isn't just a Counter Pain. It's a new map built from the ground up. So I'd love to see that. Black Site's a fun name. I like that, but you're suggesting something a little bit different. So I'd like to see a Black Site as well. I mean, that is what most of their maps are. They are Black Sites for Rainbow. But yeah, I'd like to see that. That's cool. I'm always open to new maps. I love maps in this game. I'll take any idea. This one is by Camomilla691, and they say, please God, remove map bans and make the game fun again. I hate playing the same 5 maps on loop. Please let us get back to a random pool. I want to play Emerald, Lair, Outback, Lab. Please, I want to have some variety. Isn't having a mixer so fun that I can just do this? Like I'm doing this in real time. This isn't editing. But honestly, I agree with your sentiment. I am very in the mindset of the more maps, the merrier. And something I am a massive advocate for at the moment is a reform to the map ban system in Ranked. I'm not saying we should get rid of this system, but it should be changed. I don't think it should be a map ban. I think it should be a map vote, where everyone in the lobby takes a choice of what map they want to pick. It isn't a majority pick, but if you pick a map, it boosts the chances of it then randomly picking that one. So let's say we have 5 random maps on the screen, and each player in the lobby all pick a map independently. Now, you may communicate with your team that you all want to play Nighthaven Labs. So 5 of you pick Nighthaven Labs, therefore, Nighthaven Labs has quite a high chance of being picked. Same with the enemy team as well, but you can choose a different map to your teammate. It doesn't have to be the same one. Then, when it goes to choose a map, it will take all this into consideration, but there is still a chance that the map you didn't pick gets played. That way, it keeps the pool fresh. It forces you to be pushed outside your comfort zone and play maps that you aren't as confident on. And honestly, I just think that's an insanely more interesting way to play Ranked rather than banning the same maps and playing the same maps all the time. For the past week, all I've played is Oregon and Cafe, and I am having so little fun. It is boring. I am bored out my ass. So yeah, honestly, I agree with your anger and I agree with your sentiment. It's gotten stale, and I think a massive part of that is the flawed ban system and the poor mindset by a lot of the Ranked player base as well. People aren't open to trying new things. People aren't open to learning new things. And that's why Emerald Plains is getting removed from Ranked this season. And I think that was Ubisoft caving to that side of the player base. And I think that's an insanely cowardly move by Ubisoft. I agree with you, Camo. Your anger is shared. I would like to see a big change come here. So that's going to do it for this episode of the Siege Mailbox. If you would like to be included in the next video, which will take place during Year 10 Season 4, then make sure you comment below this video or join my Discord and join that channel. Drop a like on this video if you did enjoy, subscribe if you haven't already, and make use of that new hype button which YouTube has, which helps boost the video in the algorithm. Have an incredible rest of your day. I love you all. stay safe, have a good one.